Welcome to coverage from the Rotax Max Championship down in PE. Kelso Scribanti sees round 2 of this championship and tricky conditions here on the day as opposed to what we had in qualifying the day before. We're into the DD2 Masters now, and the older men of the mountain, a couple of new guys coming to join us for this round as well.
Yeah, some of the older men of the mountain are hometown boys, Michael Stephen and Brett Brito. We're going to try and keep the accolades and the victory in their hometown. We'll see how it goes out for them.
Now, Michael Stephen hasn't lost a race here in, I think, the last 10 years other than one. And Jonathan Peterson down in 3rd place definitely needs to make that victory his at some point today. How's Brett Brito's qualifying though? Up in his 2nd place, Connor Hughes is in 4th, and Mingai down in 5th place. Caught up with Michael after yesterday's qualifying.
A lot of guys in the 175 said you chickened out by not racing there. But Masters is what it's all about. Your home circuit. I don't know, one will probably have to go back a long, long way to see when last you've been beaten on this track. But what is it about this circuit and what will it take to win?
Yeah, it's certainly a unique circuit, and especially with the track surface, it's very abrasive. So, you know, 1, your kart setup needs to be right, and then 2, there's quite a few tricks, you know, that you sort of drive around, you know, the abrasiveness on the circuit to be fast. I think one of them is, you know, to be really good on the brakes into the slow corners. And yeah, if you're easy on your back tires, you're generally quite fast.
Brett Brito qualified next to you. Jonathan, who is the main protagonist in the championship, in 3rd place. Is this managing the weekend and taking the overall and moving on, or is there a fear of being beaten?
Yeah, I think you can never not fear being beaten, so that drives you harder. So we're going out there with the aim to win all 3 races tomorrow. Fantastic to see Brett, you know, 2nd on the grid. Great for PE. I think 2 years ago he started DD2 and now he's on the front row. So fantastic result, and you know, hopefully we can both bring a 1-2 tomorrow.
Front row on the grid next to Michael. So talk to me about that qualifying session and of course the prospect of the weekend.
Well, pleased to obviously hear that. You know, Mark's multiple SA champ. He's got plenty of driving experience, and the locals in PE can only learn from him. So hopefully tomorrow, being next to him, we can try and follow suit, and who knows, hopefully end on the podium for the weekend, which would be a fantastic result.
Tyre management always plays a part here. How does one manage that?
Tyre management very much plays a big role at the kart club here in Port Elizabeth. You know, the abrasiveness as far as the circuit goes is tremendous. I guess tyre management is key. Looking at consistency as opposing to fast laps at the end of the day, I think is going to hopefully pay off. So we'll hopefully work towards that.
Yeah, also the setup has been based on that literally for the last 2 days. You know, making sure your pace doesn't drop off during the race. Yeah, we've put some effort into that, so hopefully it can pay off during the races tomorrow.
Obviously, Michael's home circuit, difficult to beat here. Brett Brito flipped you on grid, putting it in front. What's this plan? How do you manage that situation?
Yeah, we'll treat it like any other race. We'll just go and see what we can do. Like I said, we've worked hard on our race pace, so hopefully that will pay off tomorrow.
I don't know. I'll probably just try and save tyres as long try and play a long game and save the tyres for the last heat. This place sells tyres, and it's I don't know. We'll see how the day goes.
Your strategy?
So my strategy is I was aiming to sort of just compete, but it's my first time driving away from Killarney. So yeah, I'm still just learning a whole lot. This track is very, very different to drive, very abrasive and slippery at the same time. But luckily we get those 2 extra tyres now, one front and one back, as an option. So definitely going to have to do that with this grip. Qualifying was a bit of a rough one. The ECU I had to open up to test on the grid, and I had to cut a cable tie off, and it turns out this thing was loose. So had to quickly fix it, and then my starter cable broke, so it was in the nick of time. But yeah, I'm happy. Qualifying was good, and otherwise we're going to conserve tyres and have a lot of fun.
Yeah, with this new format with only 2 flying laps, it's kind of new to me, so I took it too easy. So I think I'm about 0.3, 0.4 of my best pace, but that's good.
doesn't matter. Tyres are still good, so in the races, hopefully come back a bit. The circuit, notorious about the tyre degradation. How does one manage that?
You just got to be really, really sensitive on when you're getting onto the throttle coming out of the corners. In these DD2s, you get on the gas too hard, too quickly, and spins up the back, and then your tyres are done in a few laps. So it's really about being rolling through the corners and being progressive when you get on the gas.
So race one action now. Look at that. Michael Stephen looking across at Brett Brito. Brito, an ex-motocross champion. He also spent a couple of times when we came down here for super motards on a supermoto as well, and definitely going to be a man to watch out for with the kind of pace he found in qualifying. He's right there and only a couple of seconds off Michael Stephen. Behind them they line up thick and fast, and look out for Mingay starting to make his way through there from 5th place. Connor Hughes is up there as well. Good start from him. Let's see whether or not they can all put it together now for race number 1 of DD2 Masters. Interesting though, Prince Ndweni, as you join me for commentary here for the DD2 Masters, no Gauteng-based drivers making their way down to PE for DD2 Masters.
What is it? Did they hear about the rain, Greg?
I think they probably did.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, they're trying to stay away from all that rain. There's been a lot of rain down here on the coast. And has anybody got what it takes to beat Michael Stephen at his home track? Brett Brito is another hometown hero here, and he'll be certainly pushing hard, and you can see that's exactly what he's doing there. And look at the start there from Peterson. Peterson under a bit of threat there. You can see Connor Hughes applying the pressure right from the word go, but Peterson is in 3rd, Hughes is 4th as they come through the twisties, and Hughes losing out slightly there to Mingay. Mingay goes side by side, 77 and 80. Well, 177 and 188 going at it, and Mingay gets through. Connor Hughes demoted down 1 position, and a little bit of work to do there now for him. Behind them, the 111 starting to line up there as well of James Moore, 46, and Phil Eunice also having a good start. In fact, Phil Eunice got through there on Moore, so the two of them fighting for what is going to be 5th and 6th place. Brett Brito sliding that cart. Oh man, he must be loving life. He'd love to be a little bit closer to Michael Stephen, and he's going to try hard to get there, but he's going to have to also fend off the attack coming there out of that 169 cart of Jonathan Peterson.
Yeah, Peterson is hunched over with intent, studying Brett Brito's every move. He's right in front of him, so he can capitalize on whatever mistake he makes. But all of them tiptoeing the best they can around the wet setup, the best of which Michael Stephen, they're showing his experience, getting sort of a clean lead. I mean, he doesn't have anything to worry about just yet, Greg.
Yeah, I think those two are going to close him down, though. There's no doubt about it. Have a look at the lap time already coming through there, and starting to get into the 54s at this stage. So really awesome stuff here between these two. And they're fighting at this stage for 2nd place. And Brett Brito is a man that we didn't really expect to be running at the front end, I've got to tell you. Having two-wheeled experience, he's only been driving karts for about the last season and a half, but he's got to grips with it rapidly, and really good to see it as he puts the pressure on and tries to close down on his good friend Michael Stephen up the road. But he's going to have to fend off for the rest of this lap and for the rest of this race the big intentions coming out of Peterson.
And quite literally getting to grips with this wet setup. Doesn't seem to have eased off or made things easier for drivers, but he is actually adjusting very well. It'll be interesting to see rather when Jonathan Peterson catches up with him, how he managed to defend and fend him off.
Roy Gruer coming into the mix now as well there with the 111 of James Moore. Nice to see them fighting hard, and they got some great pace, which is also good to see, because if you looked at the qualifying, it was a bit bigger gap between these drivers. Now with the trickier conditions, and then usually what happens with rainy conditions is the field gets leveled out a little bit easier, and the times are a lot closer. We're at the halfway stage of race number 1, and we're picking up on the battle here between the 177 of Alistair Mingay, and he's being once again closed down by that 188 of Connor Hughes.
Alistair Mingay seems to have the advantage in the upper hand down the straight, where Connor Hughes is only managing to keep up with him and close the gap going into the turns.
First place Michael Stephen, 2nd is Brito, and 3rd at this stage is Peterson. Peterson making mistakes though. You can't afford to be doing that, Jonathan Peterson. He knows he's got to do everything right here today. Oh, how's that move from Hughes? Connor Hughes banging up the inside and getting through on Mingay. Mingay lost a little bit of drive though, and that's allowed 46 to come into play. Hans Viljoen applying the pressure, trying to get through as well. Can he maybe make a bit of rain while the sun shines, or sunshine while the rain comes down? We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, Mingay had to give it a bit of a heave and ho, but he's got it back on track now.
Cosmic's got good pace. He's getting away from the Tony cart there. Viljoen, and Ants has lost the ground now. He made it up under braking, but eventually Mingay gets away from him, and he looks to try and return the favour now on Connor Hughes, who's got up the road from him. Coming out onto the back straight and heading down towards that bottom turn. We're getting into the closing stages now, and Michael Stephen has done it all to perfection. Brito kept him honest for a while, but you can see Michael Stephen's town and Michael Stephen's track, he's a very difficult man to beat. And as I said at the start of this coverage, he has not been bettered in the last 10 years. Only once has he finished in second place to anybody else at this track. So this is definitely the home of Michael Stephen. And Brett Brito and Jonathan Peterson are going to have to do some work in between the two heats to get themselves sorted out and maybe give him a little bit more of a run for his money in race number 2 and 3.
Very impressive record there with Michael Stephen, a man who builds and drives his own cart. The VW Academy livery there in clear view. Very well driven, very composed. He had nothing really to worry about as he takes his checkered flag there. We'll see what comes about in race 2 and 3. Brett Brito has proved to have pace, so he may be able to put a challenge forward.
Confirmation results there from heat number 1. Michael Stephen ahead of Brett Brito, Jonathan Peterson and Alistair Mingay, James Moore, Connor Hughes, Ans Viljoen, Roy Gruer ahead of Calvin Ferreira, Kevin Vosloo, Andre Steenkamp and Justin Walton with some work to do.
Race 1, walk in the park.
Yeah, race 1 went pretty well. Managed to build a lead in the beginning of the race and then sort of conserved it towards the end, but quite was going well.
Conditions, what were you thinking about conditions at that stage?
Yeah, race 1 obviously I just try to conserve the tyres towards the end because you don't have the rest of the day was going to be wet or dry. And yeah, needed the tyres for race 2 in the wet. And it looks like it's starting to rain again now, so race 3 might be wet again as well.
Slightly drier conditions now for race number 2, but it looks like they've stuck with the wet weather tyres. And looking at Connor Hughes, he's still got his rain jacket on, so potentially going to be a bit of wetness coming down. Maybe their apps on their phones have told them that there's still going to be some water from the skies, which it has been all day long, on and off with wet weather conditions and drier conditions. But it is definitely dry here, and maybe these wet weather tyres might take a bit of strain at the end of the heat if it doesn't get any wetter than it is right now. Michael Stephen alongside Brett Brito for the first row of the grid. And Brito now with the drier conditions maybe wanting to give Stephen a bit more of a run for his money. They head down the straight now. It's the long straight down towards turn number 1. And 101 is on the inside, 115. That is Brito. Can he outgun Michael Stephen into turn 1? Oh, he has a good look around the outside. That's not a bad effort. Oh, unfortunately, 111 getting out of shape there. James Moore all on his own sim, just onto the side of the circuit. Stephen from Peterson. And this time out, Jonathan Peterson up the inside of Michael Stephen. Oh, he runs him off the track. How was that? That's not the start that Michael Stephen expected coming out of Jonathan Peterson, but it's exactly what Peterson needed to do, Prince.
Second time round, Michael Stephen there getting a bit of grass. Jesus, the start hasn't been the smoothest. Now he has his own hometown boy to worry about, has to fend from him. But that was very nice from Jonathan Peterson. He was sort of nowhere. I think he started off in 4th, I believe, from the race. Now he's leading out at the front. See if Michael Stephen's able to get his own back there. He's right on his bumper again.
Very tight stuff between the two of them. They go through turn number 3, now into 4 and 5. A big double left-hander, and those mojos are crying out. Connor's crying out as well. He's made a mistake. Hughes making a big mistake there, and it's dropped him right to the back of the field, so he's got a lot of work to do. Look at Brito. Brito diving on the inside of Michael Stephen, forcing the multiple champion into some very defensive driving, which of course is slowing him down and giving Peterson a chance just to have a bit more time at the front end. He runs wide again. This time he stays on the grey stuff as they come through the twisties now to complete the lap. Michael Stephen is having a little bit more of it's not the walk in the park that Jan Hutzer spoke about in race number 1, that's for sure.
And that's a muddy walk in the park. He's gotten plenty of grass to begin with. So we'll see if he's able to get the toe and put his elbows out in defending the challenge he's got coming from Brett Brito. He's going to be watching very closely. If Michael Stephen can slow Peterson down out the front, he'll be able to get a good toe on them and catch up with the front too.
That's exactly what's happened. Peterson slowed them up ever so slightly, and Brito's joined the party again. There's only 2 kart lengths off. He was about 7 kart lengths off as they came through the chicane on the start, and he's now made that ground up rapidly. As they come through the double right-hander now to start the twisties. Here we go. Michael Stephen having a look. No, can't quite make it stick this time. Brito's right there with him. He'll be well aware of the fact that Brito's not too far off the back end of that. And then it's Mingay, Viljoen and Moore, I think, fighting just behind them for what is 4, 5 and 6.
And what I love here, it's a combination of wet and dry. You can see certain parts of the track are still a bit wet, while others aren't showing as much spray. So drivers are going to have to be very dynamic in the way they do things.
If these races were a little bit longer, they'd also have to start doing the Nigel Mansell thing, going into the water to cool the tyres and coming back onto the dry line to hit the racing line. But that's not going to happen. It's a 12-lapper now, and we are absolutely in the thick of it right now with the top 3 well within each other's grasp. They're only in the 55s now, so they're not as fast as they were earlier on today. So you can see these conditions are a little bit more trickier than what they were in the first heat.
Yeah, everyone came on in two minds. Michael Steven has wets on, but no wetsuits. Some have wetsuits on. I believe there was one driver who had slicks on, but it might have been a big mistake because a good part of the track is still wet. As you can see, Peter said they're getting a bit more across. Still a bit slippery.
I'm wondering if that driver with the slick tyres may have been James Moore, the 111 who spun out at turn 1. He might have just been caught out by the slippery conditions into turn 1 on the start. He's now got to grips and the tyres are up to temperature, so they may come into play. How's that from Brito? Oh, on the inside and banging it on the inside as well. Brito sideways. He's drifting that kart around. It is proper good to see these boys going at it. And Brett Brito, as I said, coming from two-wheeled action, hasn't got a lot of karting experience behind him, but he's certainly got some racecraft behind him, and it's paying off here big time. He's giving two of South Africa's best DD2 Masters drivers a very good run for their money.
Very impressive from Brett Brito. Maybe slippery isn't much of a problem for him. Coming from a motocross background, you do have to adjust to a lot of sliding and slipping. So small transition, really, 2 more wheels, walk in the park.
I wouldn't say that, but if you speak to any motocross rider, he will definitely disagree with your sentiments there. Motocross, a slightly different animal when it comes to that form of motorsport. But needless to say, yeah, I've got to agree with your sentiment in terms of racecraft and his ability to deal with these conditions. When the kart gets out of shape underneath him, he's definitely going to have the ability to handle it a lot better than probably anybody else who comes into karting and thinks they know what to do. This is not an easy sport, there's no doubt about it. And Michael Steven has gone at it for numerous occasions now, and over the last couple of decades has been one of SA's finest. However, right now, he sits in second place, and there's a potential for Peterson to take a victory here and to just change that record up ever so slightly in terms of Michael Steven's victories here in Calcio Scribanti.
And with the track that looks less and less wet, we're seeing how the wet tires on a dry surface are responding. Michael Steven there going a bit wide. We'll see if he's able to close the gap a bit more, but Brett Brito getting a toe on him there, capitalizing on his mistake. Michael Stevens is a bit of a fix there because he has to catch up with the guy in front of him and also defend whoever's behind him.
Walton coming through for 4th place now, so it's quite nice to see Justin Walton with a lot better run here. Behind him, it's the 69 kart, and I can tell you something. In fact, no, 68, I beg your pardon. That's Roy Gruer. So those two having a little bit of fight there for what is 3rd and 4th place. Battle at the front starting to heat up though, and Michael Steven means business. Look at how he's applying the pressure, trying to find a way through there on Peterson, but Peterson is not letting him go, not letting him give any chance whatsoever. Oh, problems there. 199 just slowing up. Justin Walton was in 4th place. He's dropped back a couple of positions there. Looks like there might have been a little bit of a misfire on that car. He got it going again, but it has cost him dearly. Look at how this battle is starting to heat up here at the front end though. Brito on the inside. Oh, take that, Michael Steven.
What a move.
Sure, we thought we were going to get a victory away from Michael Steven. I don't think he's expected to finish down in 3rd place, though. That's for sure.
No, he never had it easy this time around. I think Brett Brito sort of studied how he's doing things and how he's positioning his cards. I mean, did you see how confident he was going on the inside there?
Yeah, he didn't have worries at all. He just shoved it in there. Motocross block pass style, that's for sure. Brito using his experience on 2 wheels to give Michael Steven a run for his money. Oh man, I'd love to be an onboard camera, and that maneuver would have been amazing to see. Well, there you can see Walton coming back at it again. Finds his way past on Gruer, so he's going to make some ground up now. But still a little bit of ground still to be made up there on both James Moore and Ans Viljoen. Coming to the closing stages now. It's 10 out of 12 that we're on. So a lap and a half to go for these guys. And it looks like, well, in fact, 2.5 laps to go, I beg your pardon. And you can see just how tight it's got at the front end. In fact, if you look at that gap between Michael Steven and Brito, that's closed down a little bit compared to what it was earlier on. But the gap between him and Peterson has opened up slightly.
Yeah, maybe Peter's his setup might be leaning to the dry side because you don't see a lot of splash and spray in the sides of the drivers.
I think what they're going to be looking at now is whether or not they're going to need those tyres if it gets wetter in the late afternoon. Back to this battle, and you can see Viljoen under attack there, and Linga is coming. He's bringing along the 111 there, and I can tell you something, watch out for James Moore. James Moore has been relatively quiet after his spin, but now starting to heat up in the closing stages. And in fact, just looking at the front end of that kart, it looks like the nose cone might be in slightly there. So Moore could be getting a 5-second penalty for a nose cone infringement by the time this race comes to a conclusion. No stopping the battle between these two. Oh, take that! Ans Viljoen unceremoniously sent to the sideline.
Oh, jeez.
And he has to lose out 2 positions as well.
Yeah, paid the price there.
He doesn't know about the nose cone infringement just yet, but he will by the end of the race. think Michael Stephen and Brito realizing that they're not going to be able to do anything about the pace there of Peterson. Unless he makes a mistake, they'll probably stay like this, conserving those tyres in case they need the wet weather tyres later on in some slightly wetter conditions, which are expected later on this afternoon. Checkered flag is going to be coming out on this lap, so it's about 2 corners to try something, otherwise they'll just come across the line as they are. If Peterson stays inside on this one and the next, I don't think Michael Stephen's going to have a chance, although Brito's going to have a go! Yo, Brito had a big go there. Just ran completely off the circuit, and thanks for coming. That is the first time Michael Stephen has been beaten at this circuit in a long, long time, and he's the first man to high-five Jonathan Peterson. That is exactly what Jonathan Peterson needed to do here. Take one of the victories away and ensure that he has got a chance in this championship. Michael Stephen in second, Brito in third. Mingay hang on for fourth place, Hans Viljoen and James Moore, and then you can see Justin Walton, Roy Gruer, Connor Hughes, Vosloo Ferreira and Steenkamp.
Masters, first race, it was always going to be a thing. Michael's home track, he's not in 20 years lost a lot of races here. But I saw you were very, very happy in that second race when you got the race win.
Yeah, look, well, Michael and Brett are very quick by looks of things, so obviously hometown advantage. So, you know, to be able to beat them and just put them to the win, yeah, I think it was a special race. Yeah, it gave us a lot of confidence and all our hard work has paid off. Yeah, I actually saw him make a move on Michael, and I thought, oh, then carry on, Brett, because it was working out well for me. And I think that's when I got a little bit of a gap, and they weren't able to just, you know, like close it up on me. So I just maintained the gap through the race, and I was quite happy with it, even though the conditions were pretty tricky.
Now looking at the tyres now, drier conditions again. We were expecting it to rain. Possibility of some slick tyres on a couple of these karts. Just trying to pick up as they come through there, but we'll definitely see that throughout the time. Now trying to pick up the pace as they come onto the main straight to start this one. Brito on pole. And he heads down towards turn 1, side by side with Michael Stephen. Michael Stephen looks right across at him, and it doesn't look like he's going to be able to outgun the man. Yes, whole shot city, but around the outside, Michael Stephen goes side by side with Brito. Brito trying to hang on to it. He's got the inside line and eventually cements that whole shot. So Brito takes the whole shot, gets ahead. Michael Stephen in second. Then it's Peterson in third, and Connor Hughes up to fourth place. Slick tyres on a couple of these karts, and they're going into the wet stuff. You don't want to do that on slick tyres. That'll be costly. We saw that with the 111 in the first one. James Moore spinning out in turn 1. He was the only man on slicks, but it looks like there's a couple more that have chosen slick tyres now for heat number 3, and one of them is Brito. There's no doubt about it. He's pushing hard to try and close down on Michael Stephen, who's now hit the front. And third place, it's Peterson.
And Brito's got a lot of Peterson to worry about. He's getting plenty curb behind him there. Seems to have a bit more grip. I wonder if he's on slicks. But Brito
looks like he's on wets. Yeah. Maybe Michael Stephen decided to go on the slick tyres. We'll check and see. I don't know if it is the case. We'll double check that as they come into our sites. No, it looks like they've all gone for the wet weather option. Now, wet weather option is pretty much okay for the first part of the race, but as those tyres start to take wear, and if there isn't any wet conditions through the race, then you're going to see some slipping and sliding by the time we get into the closing stages.
Peter's hot on the heels of Brito there, capitalizing on whatever mistake he's going to be making. Peterson seems very aggressive. He's consistently getting a lot of curb. It was a bit more rough in the first 2 laps, but he seems to have smoothed that out and is very much closing in on Brito.
Now you can see that right in your shot as you were talking about it there, Prince. He closes right onto the tailpiece and looks for a way through. Look at Brito sliding out of that corner down into the bottom turn. This is normally turn 1 on the first lap, but it's probably about turn 6 on the main circuit. Now they come through into the twisties, and those, look at this.
Very close.
It's getting real here. It's getting real between these two.
And Peterson for a while
out of shape. Brito gets out of shape. That's going to allow Peterson through. He's got it. No, he hasn't. How did he hang on to that? That is quality driving. And eventually a tag, and bang, Connor Hughes T-bones him. Brito wouldn't be happy about that, but Connor Hughes will be very unhappy about that. He had nowhere to go. I think Brito might have been helped out ever so slightly there by Jonathan Peterson. It wasn't a case of him just slipping on his own. Yeah. There was certainly a little tag from behind, I think, there, Prince.
Yeah, but that was a really nice 3 or 4 sections of the track. Bit of a battle going back and forth there. We'll see if Peterson will be able to catch up and get back on pace.
177 Mingay, then you got Hans Viljoen. There is Brito just ahead of the 199, and I can tell you something, that's a man to watch out for. Justin Walton had great pace in the second heat. Yes, he made a small mistake, but it wasn't too hectic. One man who did make a mistake was 111. James Moore. He's going to have to watch out that he doesn't get another nose cone penalty. That was implied and put onto him in race number 2. And here we can see in the mid-pack, Roy Kruger. What a start from him. Much better action from that man in the 68 kart.
Yeah, Brito's aggressive driving that we saw in the earlier races has to come and give him dividends here. See if he's managed to go on the inside, but not. But closing up to the 46 there.
Now trying to find a way through on Ernst Viljoen. Viljoen just keeping him at bay for now. Watch for Brito diving on the inside as they come down to this bottom turn. He goes on the inside. Viljoen sees him coming, just places his kart perfectly. Now there'll be a move. There you go. Brito will cement it coming through there. Similar to what he did in the first turn to get the whole shot. So he's done that maneuver on a couple of occasions and now moves up into what is 4th place on track, trying to close down on his friends at the front end. He's left Ernst Viljoen ever so slightly in his wake there, and just ahead of him, he's closing in there on Gruer. Oh, and that's Petersen. Petersen's out.
Oh, come on.
No, you've got to be joking.
Mechanical failure.
Jonathan Petersen pulling to the sideline and off the circuit, and that is a massive loss to this race. Petersen out of it. That has promoted Michael Steven up to the front end, and without any competition, should be plain sailing for him. Let's watch and see where Brito can get to. Can he find a way past the 68 kart there of Gruer, possibly through on the 177 on Alistair Minge as well, and get up onto the second step of the podium?
I saw Petersen looking to the left-hand side of his kart. I wonder if he suspected an electrical failure, but we'll get confirmation of that.
Such a pity there for Jonathan Petersen. Literally went from hero to zero there. Not what he wanted in terms of this championship. But Michael Steven, once again, showing that consistency is key when it comes to winning championships, and he's done that on numerous occasions. His first GTC championship, remember, I don't even think he took a victory in the season, but he was top 3 every single race. And that's what you've got to be doing in these kind of heats. And so early on in the season, there's still a long way to go. Petersen can come back.
Yeah, Brito looking for some inches on Gruer there.
Gets
and he
through on
managed to find them, yeah.
Yeah, and now puts his sights well onto the 177 there of Minge. Alistair Minge is the next kart in sight. Speaking of in sight, Michael Steven's not even in sight. He has disappeared. He's already got the hotel bill. He's paid it, and he's going to be heading home, which is just down the corner from the Kelso Scribanti circuit.
Very much showing he's at home, well within his comfort zone there. But I'm very impressed by Brito's managing to keep at pace with Michael Steven and also battle very well. I mean, it's not easy to be the meat in the sandwich, so to speak. He's got one Alistair Minge to worry about now, and he's well within his toe.
It's quite a shot that we had there. You saw Brett Brito giving Minge a good run for his money for second place as he got through, not yet, but just in the foreground, you saw the absolutely deflated personality of Petersen. He was stuck on the side, parked on the kart, just sitting there, hands in his head going, what am I doing wrong? What has gone wrong here? What can I do to try and make up ground? There you can see him in the background. Look at that.
Nicely.
Just watching it from the sideline as the guys get grass right in front of us. Action continuing here, big time. Minge's lost out, and Brito's got to second.
Always disappointing to see a driver coming out because of mechanical failure. You sort of see it in their body language. It's always a bit different when it's something that's beyond their means and beyond their ability to fix.
There's just nothing you can do about it. As you can see, just sit on the sideline and watch those championship points disappear. Brito is having a phenomenal run here, I've got to say, and this is a massive step up for him. Out of a motocross, out of supermoto, out of a bit of two-wheeled action, now into four-wheeled and top-level karting action, and it looks like he is just taken to it like a duck to water.
Yeah, maybe some of our karting drivers might want to do a stint of motocross and then come back for some experience.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. It's going to pay off, that's for sure. Further back in the pack, though, the 199 continues. That is James Walton. He's fighting hard there with the 111 of James Moore. So Justin Walton and James Moore going at it with Ernst Viljoen. And just behind them, Connor Hughes has recovered nicely after that T-bone he had earlier on. I think the T-bone has now worked its way through the system and he's ready to go.
Digested it very nicely.
Yeah, exactly. But he's up in with a chance of a top 5 if he can just find his way through there on that 111. And that Ricardio kart is going really well in the hands of James Moore. Justin Walton just ahead and, in fact, diving through on Ernst Viljoen as we speak. So Brito ahead of Minge. Roy Gruer now starting to put the pressure onto Minge, looking for a third step of the podium. And there's the 4, 5, and 6 place and make that 7th with Connor Hughes at the back of it.
Yeah, Justin Walton has a nice train building up behind him. They're going to be capitalizing whatever mistake he makes, so he's got to keep it very clean, very neat, and very smooth.
I want to go and check out Connor Hughes' phone and check what weather app he's got, because every single race he's come out with the rain suit on. despite there being no rain in this one. He clearly had something that we didn't have on his app this morning. Here they come, across the line, another lap completed. Battle for 4, 5, 6 and 7th place across that line. And it looks like a bit more pressure coming now from Moore onto the back end of Viljoen. And I think he realizes with Connor Hughes right there, he has to try and make a move, get a cart and a bit of breathing room between himself. They're not catching Michael Stephen, but there is certainly a big change up for 3rd place expected, as we're seeing some great last laps coming out of Roy Gruer. Roy Gruer now down into the 55.4s, similar lap times to what Brett Brito is doing, and that's what's allowed him to catch Alistair Mingay.
Yeah, Mingay has to be very careful and tread very carefully where he is now. His position is at stake with someone very hungry behind him.
56.2s out of James Moore, 56.1s out of Walton. So they're not going to catch Walton, but Connor Hughes has to make up about a second now. He's only into the 56s at this 57s, I should say, at this stage. If he makes up that second, he might be able to find a way through there on Moore and Viljoen.
For the past few laps, Viljoen's been a very busy boy having to defend. It's been impressive to see him sort of soak up the pressure that's behind him, but usually when you have such a train, anything could really cost you a position.
All right, through the twisties, and now Mingay is looking over the shoulder. I think he realizes that there's going to be a chance for Roy Gruer to get past him. Maybe he's got an ailing Karcher in the closing stages of this 3rd and final heat of DD2 Masters. Hughes is through. Hughes has got through on Moore. So just in that last shot, we saw Connor Hughes just diving through. 1.5 laps to go now for Michael Stephen, and it looks like he's coming up on some back markers. Kevin Vosloo might be the man. No, in fact, that's Calvin Ferreira. He dives through on. You saw the Ferreira family in action in the Bambino class a bit earlier on. So great to see them going all out here. Calvin just having some fun here with the Masters, I'm sure. Just spending some time in the cart and getting a little bit of track time for himself. But Michael Stephen has got the perfect track time, and he's sorted everything out. Michael Stephen got down to a 54.4 about 2 laps ago. So really showing that in the closing stages, he can still put in some record pace in these kind of conditions.
It's probably dried up a bit because you're looking at Jonathan Peterson. They're very relaxed, not really uncomfortable. He might have run off a long time ago if it was still raining, so the dry conditions are working to the benefit of the likes of Michael Stephen.
Connor Hughes must be ruining the day he put that rain suit on, because it must be getting really hot in it now with no rain coming down. But anyway, needless to say, he's made his way up and could potentially finish up quite nicely here in the final heat of the day for Masters. Looking at the way things are going to go here, the 188. In fact, if I'm looking at Connor Hughes' cart, I want to see if we can get another shot of him. There's a possibility of a nose cone infringement there. It looked like the nose cone was slightly in there on Connor Hughes' cart, and I think he might be caught out there. So despite him finishing up in the top 5, he might jump down a couple of positions because those other carts are only just behind him. And with that 5-second penalty that comes with a nose cone infringement, Hughes could be in trouble.
Yeah, as a victim of that train that was forming behind Viljoen. Bit too much of the rubbing in and racing, hey?
Pretty much. But that's what racing's all about, Cole Trickle. Thanks for that, eh? Right, so into the final stages for Michael Stephen. Relatively easily done, and the end, that is. The front, he had a bit of a battle, but the flag comes out, and another victory to Michael Stephen on his home circuit at Calcio Scribanti. He's a happy man. You can see him flicking the cart with a bit of celebratory slide there. And Stephen takes the final victory of the day for the Masters ahead of Brett Brito. Roy Gruer comes through for 3rd place. Alistair Mingay and Justin Walton. James Moore. Connor Hughes did get that 5-second penalty, dropping him down to 7th, with Viljoen, Steenkamp, Ferreira and Vosloo, your top 11.
Heat 3, you weren't going to leave anything to chance.
No, definitely not. Obviously, didn't quite have the right ratio in Heat 2. Managed to borrow a ratio for the final heat, and yeah, made quite a big difference. Car was again, on rails, and fantastic result.
Jonathan parked, so helped your cause for the overall for the day and for the championship. Never nice to see anybody park, but yeah, the rest of the guys were 20-30 seconds behind, squabbling for the scraps.
Yeah, it's just never nice to see someone on the sideline. He had a fantastic second race, and he drove fantastically there to pull off a win there. And I think, Brett also did a fantastic day, probably finished 2nd for the day, and really had a great weekend. From our side, big thanks to all the sponsors, Volkswagen Driving Academy, Scribanti, CRG, Davidson, Raw Projects. Without them I wouldn't be racing, so looking forward to round 3.
Idube coming up, favourite hunting ground?
Yeah, it's actually a track I've always gone well at, so obviously home track for Jono, but it's always nice to go beat them at their home track. But you know, we'll go there and be modest, but you know, we always aim for the win.
Because you now owe him, he beat you once here today, so you better go and take it back.
Yeah, that's definitely the plan, but we'd like to go 2 better than that.